Today's daf is daf Samach Vav in Sanhedrin, as we learn for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael and soon about Sarva Shivya. It says the Mishnah near the top of the page, Machalas Shabbos. We're talking about things that you're chayiv skila for. That's what the Mishnah said back on Nun Gimel. And the next one that we're up to is Machal Shabbos. Now, as every case of Chilul Shabbos is, if you do it on purpose, is that going to necessitate a death sentence? So we'll see. It's almost the case, almost all of them, and not all of them. So he says, what's the key? When you machal Shabbos with a malacha that you did it on, if you did it on purpose, you chayiv kares, and the shogeg you chayiv achatos. If you did it with Adam and Asra, they warned you, and you still did it anyway, b'meisa, then you're chayiv skila. So again, what's the key? The key is only if you're chayiv achatos, if you did it b'shogeg, then if you did it b'meisa with Adam and Asra, you chayiv skila. Says the Gemara, Machlal Deika Midi Dechil Shabbos Have Ve'ein Chayiv Lo Shegos Achatos V'Asor Kares. What do you mean? Aren't all malachas of Shabbos, if you did it b'meisa without Asra or without Adam, you chayiv kares, and if you did it b'shogeg, you chayiv chatas. So what do you mean? If you're machal Shabbos with something that you're chayiv chatas for, let's just say the key is the chatas. If you're chayiv chatas for b'shogeg, you get skila b'meisa. Isn't that all in all cases? Every case of chilul Shabbos is that way. Why do you say if you're machal Shabbos by something that you're chayiv chatas b'shogeg, you're going to get skila? That's included in the skila if you did it b'meisa and asra. Aren't all cases of Shabbos like that? What else is there? There are exceptions. You're not chayiv chatas b'shogeg and kares b'meisa without asra. There is. What is that? Tchum and Alibid Rakiva. Famous machlokas in Shas. Tchum Shabbos. You're only allowed to go 2,000 amas from your resting place, or if you're in a city, 2,000 amas from the boundary of the city. So in that case, what's the halachas? You're not allowed to go past 2,000 amas out. Saying that 2,000 amas out of the city or out of your resting place where you are, where you started Shabbos. That's called Tchum Shabbos. Adkan Tchum Shabbos. So is that Midaraisa Rabbanan? Most of the Tanam hold that's a Drabanan. Rabbi Kiva holds it's a Doraisa, but even Rabbi Kiva's motive, you're not chayiv skila for that. You're not chayiv skila if you went outside of the Tchum, even with Adam and Asra told you not to go. You're not chayiv. It's a law, but you're not chayiv chatas for that or b'shogeg or skila b'mezid. So that's what Rashi says here, that even according to Rabbi Kiva, that you're not chayiv on chorus. Because if you would say you're chayiv on that, that's not one of the 39 malachas. So he wouldn't agree with the concept of avos malachos arbam chasarachet, that there's 39. According to this, if you would hold that Tchum Shabbos is a malacha that you would chayiv skila for, then there'd be 40. It wouldn't be 39 malachas. That's one exception to the rule. And Havar V'Liber Rabbi Yossi, famous machlokas we mentioned many times, between Rabbi Yossi and who's Rav Nassim, that is it lachalik? Is when the pasuk says lo svarish b'chol moshvosechem is that to tell you that each one's individual? That if you did all 39 malachas on Shabbos b'shogeg in one helam, you'd be chayiv all 39. That's one shita. Rabbi Yossi says no. It's to tell me that as opposed to the other 38 malachas, you're chayiv skila and b'mezid and with asra, and you're chayiv chatos b'shogeg. You know what? Rabbi Yossi holds that lo skarish will tell me that this is only a lav. You only chayiv malchus for that. So yes, when the Mishnah says you're machal Shabbos, you're chayiv skila on something you're chayiv chatos for. If you did it b'shogeg, isn't that all the cases? No, there's two exceptions. According to Rabbi Kiva, there's an exception of Tchum Shabbos, which he holds as a deraisa. If it's a drabanan, there's nothing to talk about. There's no such thing as.
Where gets it?
Yeah, where he gets lo seis ishmin kol Shabbos, right? And what was it? The Essenes translate that you're supposed to stay in your spot the whole Shabbos, right? You don't leave. You sit in the dark, whatever. So Rabbi Kiva holds it's a doraisa, but it's only a lav, right? Let's say it's ish mikomo, and also it's certainly not. There's no chatas or anything like that. And according to Rabbi Yossi, there is an exception, havara. So you wouldn't be chayiv skila for that according to Rabbi Yossi. So it's not according to everybody, but the Mishnah is clearly saying if you don't hold the exceptions are tchum according to tchum Shabbos according to Rabbi Kiva and havara according to Rabbi Yossi. Those are cases where there is no chatas, and then there wouldn't be any skila either. We did Mezon Asra. The next Mishnah, makal loving machasvil, if a person curses his parents. The punishment for that is skila, just for cursing your parents. Uses God's name. If he curses him with God's name, as we'll see, then he's chayiv skila for that Adam and Asra, of course. Kilam b'kinui. Let's say he used the kinui. What is the kinui? A substitute name. Rashi tells us what are the substitute names, like Shakai. Interesting. Here Rashi tells us that what are the substitute names? Kilam b'kinui. Rashi says Kigon Shakai, Tzvokos, Hanun, Varachum. Right. Before Rashi said a few blot back, he said also Elokim. It's also a kinui. Okay, these are all presumably substitute names. If you did it with a kinui, Rav Meir says you are chayiv skila, Chacham say you're potter. All these are talking about chayiv skila. We're talking about, again, the cases that you're chayiv skila. That's why we mentioned Shabbos, why we mentioned Makala V'imo, even though we're getting away a little bit from Kishuf, but we're going to come back to it. We're going to come back to the sorcery and that kind of stuff soon. Okay. Machal Shabbos, Machal Kal V'imo. Oh, so there are the Mishnah back on Gimel listed in the fourth line. Third, fourth line, and the Mishnah, Machalas Shabbos, Makala V'imo, and Abal Nar Morosa. So we're going to cover those. So we covered Machal Shabbos. Now we're going to talk about Makala V'imo. Now, Man Chachamim, we say over here, the Chachamim say that what? That you're potter if you don't use Hashem's name. If you just use the substitute name, you're not chayiv skila for that. Man Chachamim, the Chachamim Rav Nachman B'Yossi. It's from Nachman Rav Yossi, the Tanya Rav Yossi Omer. Pasuk has been Nakvo shame, you must. They were talking about cursing God. But it says that the pasuk's talking about cursing Hashem, and it says "Benakvo shame you must." But why does it say shame? We're already talking about it. The whole pasuk is talking about not cursing Hashem. So of course we know. Why does it say Shematam lo shame? To teach me, there's another thing here that if you use Hashem's name for cursing your parents, the pasuk there's two pasukim they're talking about. You shouldn't curse Hashem, and it repeats "Benakvo shame you must." Why the extra shame? Liman makava v'imo, that we curse your parents, where the pasuk says you can't curse your parents, right? As we'll see the pasuk in a second. That's we apply that word shame, Hashem's name, to cursing one's parents. Tan Rabbanim. Ish, what does the pasuk say? Ish, matam ish. Why does it say every man? L'rabos bas tumtum androgus, to teach you that even if it's not a man, if it's a daughter or a tumtum and androgynous, a tumtum is of course one whose genitals are not seen. Therefore, you don't know if it's either a boy or girl, but we don't know. And androgynous has both. So the machlok is whether that's a third. Now with Trump's new rules, there's only two sexes, right? Male and female. Androgynous is a bit of a problem, right? Might be a third one. According to him, it says it's a bearing from the but some say no, it's both or whatever. It's a boy, whatever it is. It's there's basically two. But the point is the ish, the exorcists tell me that whether it's a girl or a daughter, basically, or a tumtum androgynous, a shekal savimo, they're all chayiv for cursing one's parents. In other words, as it comes with almost all lavin in the Torah, almost every single case of a losa, say it applies to men and women equally. And the aviv ve'imo. That's only maybe if you curse. It says isha kalas aviv ve'imo. If you curse your father and your mother. Do you have to curse both to be chayiv? And the alav v'imo, alav shaloimo, imo shalav. How do I know if I curse only one of them, the father without the mother without the father? Tamalomer alav v'imo. The end of the pasuk says he cursed both. That's to teach me that what it says alav v'imo kilo dam of bo. That's what the pasuk hands off. Alav kilo imo kilo, to tell me that the extra alav v'imo kilo, to tell me that even if you just do one of them. The Rabbi Yoshi. There's a famous machlokes from Yoshi and Rabbi Yonason when it comes to two things. Do you have to have the word yachtov? Or even without Yachtov, in other words, if it didn't say Yachtov, do you say that it's each one individually or not? So he says from Rabbi Yosha, it's mashma that since he says, the reason we know that each one individually is chayiv is because the pasuk repeated it. The pasuk is ish asher yikalas av v'imo, and then it says mos yumas, he will die, etc. Demei bum, he will die, and then it says av v'imo kilel dam of bo. So since it says repeated, that's how we know that it's either both together or if even curse one individually. Unless the pasuk says yachta, both of them, it means both of them together or each one individually. That's the famous machlokes Rabbi Yonason and Rabbi Yosha and other cases in Shas too. Rabbi Yonason says if it doesn't say yachta, it means one or both. Rabbi Yosha says it means both unless you have an extra words like in this pasuk. Most yumas, they will die. Again, ish asher asher yikalas of visimo most yumas, right? Of vimo kilo dam of bo. So beskila. That's the skill. That's our whole issue over here is who dies for skill. That's what the mission and then Gimel was telling us, all these various cases of skila. Is it skila or one of the other three strafe herik or chenik? So it's never kan dom of bo. Here the pasuk says we just quoted of the emo kilel dom of bo. Here it says his blood is there. It's like his blood is on his head. By Oven Yidoni that we discussed this week. It says Demeyam Bum, Malahom, just like over there, it says skila because it says Rogom Yugamu, you should stone them. Afkam the skila, here it's also skila. So we know that the punishment for cursing one's parents, number one, it's only if you mention God's name. Rav Meir says, even if it's one of the substitute names of Hashem, according to Chum, it's only if you say the name itself, the Shem Hashem, either Yudke Vavke or Hashem Adnus, Afkan skila. That's so the Gemara now says Onesh Shamanu. Asur Menayin, that's the ownership, that's the punishment of skila. Where's the losa say? Where does it tell you not to do? Where does it say don't curse your parents? Talmud Lomer, so we're gonna have to, it's gonna be a tough one. Where does it say? Pasuk says if you curse your parents, you're gonna die. Skila. Where does it say don't do it? So now we're gonna get into this long pardon. It's implied, but implied isn't enough. You can't give a punishment unless there's a warning. There has to be a prohibition. That's a general rule.
But it says don't curse.
It doesn't say don't curse. It says if you curse your parents, you will die. You'll get skila. Where does it say don't curse your parents? We always look for that. In Perek Yud Ches, it's all the prohibitions. Don't sleep with your mother. Don't sleep with this one. Don't sleep with that one, etc. And then a chafet tells you what are the punishments you're going to get covers for. Don't sleep with your sister. Right? Don't sleep with your children, with your granddaughters, with your grandchildren. It says all those rules. You have to have a prohibition in order to be mechayev. Right? So where is the also the prohibition would function in cases where there's a chorus? If there's warning, you'd also give malchus. In other words, chorus means death by God. Right? Not there are cases by Shabbos. We said Avram asked us the other day by Shabbos, Mechal Shabbos, or other cases. What was the case of Avodah Zarah where he said that if you do it b'shogeg, Yechayev achatas, right? If you do it b'mezid, Yechayev koris min Hashem. If you do it with Edom and Asra, then Yechayev mis b'dei shemayim. But let's say there is no let's say there's no court punishment. There's no skila sreif ergachenik. There's no capital punishment. It just says, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say a person sleeps with his sister. There is no punishment for that by the court. There's no capital punishment. It's simply, you did it b'shogeg, it was a mistake, you bring a chatos. You did it b'mesa, God will get you, you'll get chorus, right? Chorus and misa b'shemayim aren't the exact same things, but that's another discussion, get chorus. Okay, but if you were warned about it, so it's not a shogeg, right? God maybe will get you, but you still get malchus for it. You get malchus in the case of, because there's a losase. You can't give malchus unless there's a losase. Don't do it. So so let's say he did it on purpose. He just walks around scot-free. No, they'll give him malchus for that. So there is a purpose. You need the prohibition in order to give any punishment. Even a punishment from Hashem is only if there's a losase. So where is the losase? Asar Menayin, Talmud Lomar. So we're at the beginning of the first of the wide lines now. Talmud Lomar, Elohim lo skala. I say that pasuk. It really you should say Elohim, because we're going to see later on when the pasuk. This week's parsha, Michael, right? Elohim. It's the pasuk says. Let's say the whole pasuk. Elohim lo sikalel v'nasi ba'amcha lo saor. Let's say the whole pasuk. So we could say it like because the Elohim here we'll see is both. It means a judge, which means you could just say a judge. When you say a judge, Elohim is not God, right? It's not. It's with a small g, let's say, right? But if you're saying it's Hashem's name, then we say Elohim. So when it says don't curse, it says Elohim lo skalel v'nasi b'amcha lo saor. So what is that Elohim? Is it God or is it a judge? So we'll see it's both. We'll see it could be termed as both. So here, so we're at the beginning, we're assuming it means don't curse the judge. Okay. If his father happened to be, we're looking for a pasuk. How do I know you can't curse your parents? Where does it say don't? We know you can't because you're going to get killed if you do, right? But where's the prohibition? So if his father happened to be a judge, very good. If your father happened to be a judge, so that we know that you can't curse your father because it says don't curse a judge. Okay, fine. Let's say his father was a prince or the king, whatever. So the end of the pasuk says, don't curse your prince. Okay, so if your father happened to be a judge or he happened to be a prince, so we know you can't curse him. But what about most people? Most of us, our fathers are not judges or princes, right? Aino lodai and velo nasi. If he's neither one, then I know you can't curse your parents. Amr harei atadan bin yarav. You'll do it with a generalization, like a paradigm. Mishneim from both the two. from judge and from prince. Lo roi nasi karoi dayim. The characteristics of a nasi is not like that of a judge, as we'll see. Lo roi dayin karoi nasi. And a judge's characteristics are not exactly like that of a prince. Lo roi dayin karoi nasi. The dayin is not like a nasi. Sharei dayin atamatzu al raso. A dayin, you have to listen to his rulings. A judge, if he's a judge, he's a proper halachic judge, a rabbi, and he paskins something, you have to listen to him. A prince can't give you a haras halacha. He doesn't. The king doesn't give halachas. The Sanhedrin does. The dayan does. There's the dayanim, right? So they're different in that sense. And a nasi's characteristics are not like that of a judge. A nasi, you're not allowed to rebel against him. Right, you're not allowed to rebel against him. Rashi brings down the pasuk in Yeshaya, near the bottom, at the end of the narrow lines. Kol yisha asher yamras picha. You're the judge. Yeshua was the king, so to speak, right? Like you took over from Moshe. Whoever rebels against you is going to get killed. You're not allowed to rebel against him. You have to listen. If you're mora b'malchus, you're chayav death. Karai dayin. Like a dayan, a dayan, you can rebel against the judge. You can say, I don't want to go. You have to listen to his rulings, but there's no such thing as if you rebelled against him, you're not chayav misa for that. What's the common denominator? What's the common denominator to build this paradigm? They're both in your nation, and you're not allowed to curse them. So I'll bring your father also. Your father's also a person in your nation. In other words, you have a paradigm. The nasi and the dayan are two different people. They have different rules, different characteristics, yet they're in your nation. They're good people. You're not supposed to curse them. Same thing with your father. Same thing for your father or your mother. The Gemara says, different there. Because there you could say the reason why you can't curse them is because they are great people. One's a judge, one's a nasi. Maybe they're great on such a high standard, they're a high class of people, then maybe you shouldn't curse them. How do you know you can't curse your father? Talmud, we have another place that says, lo skalo cheresh. You shouldn't curse the deaf person. Boom long the most unfortunate among your people, so you see that even not just high people like judges or princes, even low people like cheresh, you shouldn't curse them. Maybe you shouldn't curse a cheresh because he is so downtrodden already. He's one of the most unfortunate people that if you curse him and he understands what you did, you're really going to cause him pain. But maybe an average person you curse maybe won't take it seriously. So how do you know your father too? So the answer is nasi v'dayan. Okay, look, you don't want to learn from cheresh, so look at nasi v'dayan, who are not umlalin, right? Mal nasi v'dayan, shein gdulasing armelo, right? So cheresh yochiach. So look at cheresh, which is not a gdol. They're all different characteristics, right? All these people, whether they're a deaf person or a prince or a judge, they're in your nation. Because you can't curse them. I'll tell your father also is in that group of people. And you can't curse them too. Right? So that's what he says.
But when you curse someone, does that person have to hear you cursing? But this could be done.
Presumably he doesn't have to hear it as long as other people heard it. Witnesses heard it. And if witnesses heard it, that person didn't have to hear it necessarily, but it could be, the reason maybe the Torah said don't curse a deaf person, he may not hear it anyway if he's deaf. Presumably, usually the pasuk is deaf and dumb, but if he finds out about it, he's really going to be in bad shape. That it's really, maybe that's the reason behind it, why the Torah said don't curse them. That's what we're trying to say. Maybe a person like that, but maybe your father, you could curse. So the Gemara says learn it out from all three. If you say you can't learn from nasi and dayan because there's great people, you shouldn't curse them. Lower people not. But from all three, you see all kinds of people you can't curse. So male, you can't curse your father either. So the Gemara says,
given the law,
right,
honor your father and mother,
right.
And why can't we learn out from that?
Because because that's not honoring your parents are specific things. Feed them, help them, take care of them. That's not the same, curse. Obviously you shouldn't curse them, but maybe you can curse them while you're helping them. Sometimes people do that. Do I have to do that again? In other words, you shouldn't curse them.
You're waiting for them.
No, but also if you don't honor your parents, it's only an asay. Here we're talking about your chayav misa if you curse them. If you don't honor your parents, let's say a person didn't honor his parents, he didn't have a choice. His parents died when he was young or whatever. So you didn't kind of the asay. But if you curse your parents, presumably even after death, you're chayav for that. So So the Gemara says, so learn out from all three. Okay, just like you have high people and low people, so all kinds of people are included, including your parents. But what's the common denominator of the three? Judges, princes, and the Cherish, that they're different. They're not your standard people, right? Out of 1,000 people, maybe you'll have one person who's a judge, a prince, or a deaf person. But they're different. Maybe only those people you shouldn't curse. How do I know you can't curse your parents? Ella, I'll tell you how. If it was really just those three, just say 2 out of the 3. Say the judge and the deaf person, right? And I'll be able to learn out the nasi from the 2 of them, right? Because you can't say, well, they're mashuna. Nasi's also mashuna. So you should be able to learn out the nasi from Elam and Cherish. Oh, nasi b'cherish, or say nasi and Cherish, and I'll learn out the judge from those 2. Again, just like those 2 are different, those 2 are in your nation, and they are different. The judge is also different. So why does it say Elohim? Why do I need all 3? Just say 2 out of the 3. So it's not learned out of a ma'at, but rather, since Elohim is not necessary, and it says Elohim, since you don't need it for itself, because you could learn out from the combination of Cherish and Nasi, so any levels will apply to of meaning your parents. That's fine. All this is good if you say that when the pasuk says Elohim lo sekalel v'nasi b'amcha lo sor, we're talking about a judge. So we're talking about a judge, right? We're talking about a judge. So you learn it. You can't curse a person, right? Why does it say Elohim? Because it's extra to teach me even other people, not just the judge, but your parents also. It's in im eino inyan. That's fine if you hold that Elohim means a judge. Elamad Omer Kodesh. If you hold that Elohim, it's really when the pasuk says that word, it's Elohim, it's Kodesh, it's Hashem's name, Michael Maimer. If you couldn't curse God, can't curse God is one thing, but maybe you can curse your parents. The Tanya, Elohim Chol, Rabbi Shmuel says that it means a judge. Rabbi Kiva says Elohim Kodesh. It means God, right? The Tanya Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov Omer, Asolom Baruch Hashem, and how do you know you can't curse Hashem's name? Talmud Lomer Elohim Lo Skal. That's the sword. That's the prohibition for not cursing God. So Laman Omer, so you'll say this. Laman Omer, Elohim Chol. If you say Elohim means a judge, meaning it's not, it's secular, it's profane, it's not not God. So Kodesh Michol. Oh, very good. If you can't curse a judge, you certainly can't curse God. So it's like a Kal V'chomer. I ain masir min adin. Okay, so we'll say one. Maybe it means both, as we'll see. The names are din. Maybe you go like the sheet that you go masir min adin. Laman Domer Elohim Kodesh. But if you say Elohim means Kodesh, Garmin Chol mi Kodesh. Would you learn out actually Chol from Kodesh? Maybe Hashem you can't curse, but a regular person could. Bishul Man Domer Elohim Chol. The Gemara says not a question mark. The Gemara now asks it. Sort of like redundant. Bishlam Mandomer Elohim Chol. If you say Elohim means a judge, Garmin Kodesh Mechol. Very good. You can learn on Kodesh Mechol. If you can't curse a judge, right? So you certainly can't curse God. God is also a judge, right? Elamandomer Kodesh. If he says Kodesh, kind of Berchas Hashem, Ma'ikla Meimer, ain't kind for you say there's no extra pasuk. So the Gemara says, okay, you learn it out from that, right? Lamandar Melim Kodesh, Kamin Chol Mi Kodesh. Shubish Lamandar Melim Chol, Gamma Kodesh Michol. Lamandar Melim Kodesh, Gamma Kodesh Chol Mi Kodesh. You're going to can't curse God. Who says you can't curse a person? Dilma Kodesh Azar. The Torah warned us. God warned us not to curse God. Acholo is, but Hashem didn't command us not to curse a judge. So number one, it's only speaking about God. So we don't have an extra pasuk at all. It says Im Kain, if it would only be that lichtov krolos, if it would only be one, meaning God only and not the judge, it would say lo sakel, don't curse. My lo sakalel, the double lamed, shma min atarti. Rashi says lo sakalel, shtei klolos mashma. Elohim nami beis l'shodesh yeshbo, because Elohim could mean God, it could mean a judge. So therefore, we come out that it's really lo sakel is on both of them. So we don't really need it. For God, we need it, right? We don't. I mean, you could say it's a Kal V'chomer, but so it means both. So we have Lo Skal, which means Kodesh, Hashem's name, and it means a judge. But why do I need to say a judge? If you can't curse a Nasi and a Cherish, you can learn enough from the combination of the two. The answer is that it's a Meina Inyan. We don't need Elohim for judges, so therefore we apply it to things. So it's a really roundabout way. Plus, it doesn't say don't curse your parents. It says don't curse a cherish, don't curse a nasi, don't curse a judge. The judge is extra. So we say meaning for the judge, we'll use it to all other people, including your parents. Now,
Do we ever have
the truth is,
without the-
right, the truth is, why doesn't it apply to all people then? Right?
Well, because mu five.
Okay, yeah, but no, but you could say it's an imena inyan, so we apply it to the parents. We apply it to the parents maybe because we see the punishment by parents. If you curse a regular person with God's name, it doesn't say you're chayiv misa for that. Only for parents, right? So what's the law to say? So we extrapolate it from this whole drasha. So we say if it emanating for that, we apply it to parents. That's how he applies it. Emanating gufo tuning love. In other words, where is it most likely to apply? Not to Yankel Schmerel in the street. It's going to apply to your parents, where you're supposed to have respect, like Kurt says. You're supposed to have respect, and you're going to be punished. You're going to be so skila. You got to get punished with skila. Yeah. All right. Then the third, we said there are three cases from the Mishnah and Samachim that talks about all the cases of skila that we're discussing today. The first one is Shabbos, Michal Shabbos. The second one was this one about cursing your parents, and the third one is Abal Namarasa. Now let's understand. Nara Marasa means an engaged 12-year-old girl. A girl until she's 12 is a ktana. From 12 to 12, she's a nara. From 12 to 12 and a half. At 12 and a half, she's a bogeris. She's an adult. She's on her own. Her father can't marry her off. She's on her own. She's a full adult. She's like, we say 21, in modern, among the goyim, it's you're 18 or 21, you're a full adult. No, here it's 12 and a half. So a girl who's 12 and a half, this doesn't apply. Meaning, the pasuk says that if a man sleeps with a nara ma'orasa, a girl who's between 12 and 12 and she's betrothed, she's not fully married. So pasuk says she's chayiv skila. They're both chayiv skila. They did it together. Habal namarasa ain't chayiv achetei nara. He's only chayiv achetei nara. She has to be 12 and a half. Besula, she has to be a virgin, marasa, and she's betrothed. Viva Beisavia, and she's still in her father's house as will be, as opposed to if the father already sent her on the way to the chassan's house to get married. So it's only in those cases. Only in the case. She has to be 12, between 12 and 12 and a half, and she has to be betrothed, and she has to be a psula. Now, we'll see, what about if she's a ketana? Now, ketana is not going to be punished, but is she included in that? So our Mishnah says not then, only a nara. Our Mishnah goes like Rav Meir. We'll see the Rabbanan say that even if she was under 12, where she's not going to be punished because she's a ketana, but the rule of skila applies to her too. A married woman who commits adultery, the punishment is chenek, a lighter kind of a capital punishment. The Torah says for betrothed girl who's 12 or 12 and a half, she gets skila. What about if she's under 12, where she's not going to get punished at all, and somebody slept with her? Let's say she agreed. It wasn't even a case of a rape. She agreed, but her mind doesn't mean anything. She's under 12. She has no authority. She has no, we don't consider her abat da'at. Would the adulterer get punished with skila? So we'll say there's a machlokas about that. Our Mishnah says no. Our Mishnah is only an ara, only 12 and a half. What happens if he slept with a 12-year-old girl who was betrothed? Her father betrothed her to somebody which was there. What would the adulterer get? According to Rabbanan, we'll see in the Gemara he gets skila too. According to our Mishnah, maybe he gets nothing. Or maybe he gets chenek, like a married woman. Now we said if it's a married woman, the punishment for adultery is chenek. If it's a betrothed girl between 12 and a half, the punishment is skila. Now that means, or if she's already a ba'ula, if she's not a basula. Says the Mishnah, in the fourth line, let's say two people slept with her consecutively. And Harisha b'skila, the first one gets skila b'asheni b'chenek. Because the first one, he gets skila because she's a nar marasa, but the second one, she's no longer a virgin. You say, we know if she's not a virgin, the punishment is chenek. Rashi explains over here that she's a ba'ula, and it goes like Rebbe says, even if she's technically, physically a virgin, because he slept with her shelo kedarka, anally, right? She slept with her that way. She's still considered a ba'ula because it says mishkavei isha. Sleeping with a girl could be either the normal way or the abnormal way. We'll call that. Then the unnormal way, either regular sex or anal sex. And Rebbe holds that shelo kedarka, she's still no longer psula. So if the first guy, we'll see. If the first guy who slept with her, and she's a nara basula ma'orasa, all these three characters, she's 12 to 12 and a half, she's a virgin, she's marasa, first guy gets chenek. Even though technically after his bia, she was still physically a virgin, but she's not, halachically, she's not a virgin anymore. She's a bula, so the second guy gets chenek. Tana Rabbanan, nara v'lo bageres. She has to be 12 and a half, and nara bageres, not if she's 12 and a half. Basula v'lo ba'ula, ma'orasa v'lo nasua, not if she's fully married. Remember, if she's fully married, the punishment is chenek. Or if she's a ba'ula, punishment is chenek. B'beis avia, What does it mean in her father's house? If she's on her way to the wedding already, also no longer, and then the punishment would be chenek, like a married woman. These are Rav Meir's words. When it says na'amarasa, it means up until 12 and a half, including 10 years old and 9 years old and 3 years old. The Chacham say even Ktana Maras would also, the punishment would be skila. Obviously for him, for the girl, if she's a Ktana, she's not punished at all. Amalei Ravacha midifle Ravina. How do you know our Mishnah goes like Rav Meir? Ulumut Ktana and we exclude Ktana just because the Mishnah said na'amarasa? The Chacham also say, because it says na'amarasa, it means up until 12 and a half. Maybe it goes like Rabbanan. Why say the Mishnah goes like a Yachal, like Rav Meir? Say it goes like Rabbanan. Ulumute bogeres. We're only excluding a bogeres, meaning on when she's 12 and a half. The sulo only excluding a bogeres 12 and a half. But up until 12 and a half, any bia which is considered a bia, that means from the age of 3 until 12 and a half, he would get skila for. Amrlei. So Ravina answered him, Hi, einachayev achete nara besula marasa. So our Mishnah says she's not chayiv until she will be a nara. It's mashma as she grows up until she's 12. She's not chayiv. She's not chayiv until she's 12 and a half. Marasa ain't chayiv. Ela al nara basula marasa mi boile. According to you, that it's that that you want to say the Mishnah goes like the chachamim that you're chayiv even up until 12 and a half. It's just anything until 12, even a ktana. Right, it should say in a chayv ela al nara basula marasa mi boile. Basula means nara basula means up until 12 and a half. Basula midin shouldn't say any more than that. Why did it say ein a chayv? Look at the Mishnah again, the second line. Ein a chayv ad shetehei nara basula until she is 12, not when she's 11 and not when she's 10. Until she's 12. Since it says until she's 12, it's mashma when she's a ketana. She's not. You're not chayiv. So since the high Mishnah says ein a chayiv. Ad sheteinar basul marasa, meaning until she's 12, according to you, right? According to you, because you just said she's not chai, you're only chai on a nar basula. Why did it say ad shetei? Ad shetei and the sulo midi, and you can't argue with that. In other words, sulo midi. The first sulos, it should say 3 lines above. It says lemuta begeres v'sulo, only excluding a bogeres and no more, not excluding a ktana. Maybe it means that. He says no. Since it says ela ad shetei, it's mashma that she's not chayiv, you're not chayiv on a ketana or a 10-year-old or 11-year-old until she's 12. Now, until she's 12, of course, she's not going to get punished. But the Rabbanan say you're chayiv you get skill even for that. What would Rav Meir say about if he had bia with an 11-year-old? Let's say she was 11-year-old and she was betrothed. She's still a bsula. She is betrothed, but she's 11 years old. What would the adulterer get? What would his punishment be? That we'll discuss now. Boy mine Rav Yaakov bar Ada Meirav. Balak Tan Marasa li Rav Meir. Remember, according to the Chachamim, it's skila, the adulterer, not the adulteress. The adulteress, if she's between 12 and 12 and a half, she would get skila. If she's up until 12, everybody knows that you don't punish a ktana. But according to Rav Meir, who says what? That you don't get punished, that you don't get skila if she's under 12. The adulterer doesn't get skila. The Rav Meir who says again, Rav Meir, our Mishnah, you're only chayiv on a nara besula marasa, only between 12 and 12 and a half. She's a virgin and she's betrothed. What happens if he had bia with a 11-year-old who was betrothed and a besula? Rav Meir, mau legamri madle. Does he say there's no punishment at all? Oh, miskila madle. Maybe there's no skila. Maybe there's no skila, but there'd still be chenek. He's still having bia with a betrothed woman. Amalei. So Rav answered, Mistavra b'skila, probably just from skila v'mai, because and you would still get the other, you'd still get chenek, but you wouldn't be totally absolved. It says when they commit adultery, they both have to die. Maybe they both have to die. Since you can't punish her, can't punish him either. Maybe that was the kasha that they asked Rav. So he said, so the question is, how could Rav say that? Rav said, you don't get skila, you probably get chenek. Why? But she's not punished at all. If she's not punished, can you punish him? When two people commit a sin together, if you can't punish her because she is a kana, you still punish him? It says, Meisik Amshtein both have that. Shasik Rav. Rav was quiet. He didn't have an answer to that. Amar Shmuel, my time is Shasik Rav. Why was Rav quiet? The name of let say, we know in a case of a rape. Remember what does the pasuk say? If he found her, if he raped a girl in the city assumed she should have screamed out. So since she didn't, she probably did it willingly. Of course, they had to be ate him to kill him, etc., etc. In Besadeh if he found her out in the field, doesn't mean literally a field, just means in a place where she was raped, right? So you see many times if a man rapes a girl, he's killed. If he rapes a betrothed girl, he's killed, even though you don't kill her. She was worth. Well, now you can't do anything to her at all, right? She didn't do anything. She was raped. Right? So you see that you could kill one person. One of the participants in this immoral act can be killed, even if the other one's not. Why didn't he say that too? It's really a machlokes Tanam. It's a mesugam shneim. They'll both die. Sham Rav Shapiro says again. We have machlokes Rav Yoshi and Rav Yonason. Rav says that what mesugam shneim? They both have to die. If you're not killing both of them, you can't kill one of them. Pasuk says, right, in the case of rape, you kill one by himself. What will Rabbi Yonason do? What about it says Mesugam Shneim? To tell you that you don't kill both of them in the case of Chedudim. Chedudim means sharp, meaning if they were just fooling around, meaning they didn't have full sexual penetration. He was just rubbing up against her. So he had pleasure and she didn't. So since she didn't have any pleasure and you're not going to kill her, you're not going to kill him either. That's what he refers to. That's what he says, Mesugam Shneim. What are you talking about? That's not B at all. It's pritzas, right? It's pritzas. So you don't need a pasuk for that. So the one who says you don't kill him until you kill both of them, and since you can't kill her, you can't kill him. What does it say? What about the fasting levado medarshbe? Kedetanya, that this is what levado means. We had in our mission, if two people slept with this betrothed girl, the first guy gets skila, the second guy gets chenek, right? But let's say 10 people slept with her, all shalo kedarka, v'adaini psula. Even after 10 people, she's still physically a virgin. Kula b'skila. Tanakama says they all get skila because he says since she's physically a virgin, they all get skila. Rabbi Omer Harishim says no. That any bia, even a bia shalo kadark, even though she's physically a virgin, she's not halachically a virgin. The first one's kila v'kulam b'chenek. So what do you see over here when he says levado? He's the only one. Levado, yes, the levado is referring to levado. He's the only one that gets skila. The other ones don't. That's what he applies it for. So you have one pasuk which tells you that you don't kill one unless you kill both. Halachically, of course, you're going to kill. The halach is that you kill him too, right? You kill him too. The question is, how do you kill him? He's not off the hook entirely. The fact is, he did commit adultery with a betrothed psula, with a betrothed virgin, and she was underage, so you can't kill her, but you still kill him. So the question is, how do you apply the psukim? If you say Mesugam Shneim is only if you can't kill her because she didn't have bia, so you don't kill him either. He says that's only priestess. That's the argument there. So Mesugam Shneim, if they both committed adultery on purpose and they're both of age, then you kill them both. If what does he do with the one who says you can't kill one unless you kill the other? What does he do with levado? That's in a case like this. Levado means he's the only one who gets skila. If the first one who committed adultery with her gets skila, the other ones get chenek, but they're all chayiv miso. Rabbi Omer Rishon B'skil v'kol mechanek. Tana Rabbanan. So we have these sheets over here. So at the end of the day, we do have a machlokes between Rebbe and the what machlokes do we have besides the machlokes of Rabbi Yoshia and Rabbi Yonason? Apparently, whether you can't kill one unless you kill both, and Rabbi Yonason says no, you can kill one by himself. Besides that, it's not. I don't know halachically, it's clear that you'd kill the person, right? If a man commits rape, Pasuk says you kill him by himself. You don't kill if you can't kill her, it doesn't mean you can't kill him. So it's a little bit hard to understand that. The machlokas, but we do have the machlokas. Is the now when you're chayiv skila, is that only on a 12 to 12 and a half year old, like Rav Meir says? The Chum say even up until 12 and a half, even if she's a ketana, you're also chayiv skila. If she's a psula, and she's a psula according to Rav Meir, according to Rebbe, who holds that she's only a psula by the very first bia that she had, even if it was a bia shelo kedarka, that will turn her into a beula. According to others, as you see over here, this machlokas, that she's still, if she's physically a psula, she's physically a psula, and they would all get skila. Tana Rabbanan. Now we have a pasuk. We talked about this before. Bas, when we talked about sreifa, who gets sreifa? A few cases, right? If a man lives with his mother, besides his wife, his mother-in-law, and there's a case of basish kohen. Basish kohen kisecha lisnos. If a daughter of a kohen who's betrothed or married, we'll see, if she's Mazana, she's punished with Sreifa, not Skila. Rebbe Omer Tchila. So Rebbe says, if this is her first Bia, what does that mean? So Rebbe says, if it's her first Bia. Now, we had before, there was Machlokas, whether is that only if she's betrothed but not married, or even if she's married. So Rebbe says, if it's her first Bia, she's going to get Sreifa for that. The first time she had Bia was she was betrothed, she was still a virgin, and she's going to get Sreifa for that. And then Rebbe says, V'cheinu Omer, it says, Meisa Isha Shechavmi Levado. It quotes the pasuk by a girl, he raped a girl, Vado. What does that have to do with this? What does that have to do with Basish Cohen? Chilo. Mike Omer, what did he say? What does this mean? So we're going to have two interpretations. Omer Afuna B'rei Yeshua. Rebbe Kerbishmal Sfirle, he also Bishmal the Omer Arusi Asal Sreifa. Only a betrothed Bas Cohen gets Sreifa, not married. If she's fully married, she gets chenek like any other married woman who commits adultery. V'lo Nesua goes like that. This is what it means. Im Tchilas Bia Bisnus. If she's still a betrothed girl, meaning she's a psula, she's not married, and the first time she had Bia was with this adulterer, she's a Bas Kohen who got betrothed, and now the first time she had Bia was with this adulterer, then it's Besreifa. Idach, if it was not her first Bia, meaning she already had Bia with her husband, or with her betrothed, whatever it was, then it's Chenek. Doesn't make any difference if it was Chupin Kedushin. If she had Bia with her husband, that's why it's Chenek. My V'chein, so what is V'chein? Ki Hasam. Just like when a person raped the girl, it says what? It says he raped her, he dies by himself. We're talking about when he raped a betrothed girl, right? Betrayed the girl. If you rape a girl who's not betrothed, Absula, you pay 50 shekels to the father, right? You have to marry her. But talking about we raped the betrothed girl, just like over there, it's the first bia because she was Absula. Mahasam betchilas bia kamishtori kra. That's what he's talking about. In other words, he's going like the Shita of Ishmael, that what Bas Kohen is chayiv streif if she committed adultery, if this was the first time she had bia. She's betrothed, she's not married yet. Another rabbi didn't say that. And one who was that? Rabbi Yosef. He interpreted it differently. He else Rabbi goes like Rav Meir. What does Rav Meir say? Rav Meir holds over there that Bas Kohen Kiseichel Iznos Asavi Mechalel Ba'ishti Sarf is speaking about even by a married Bas Kohen, even if she's married already. That means she's not a psula anymore. She's a Bas Kohen who's married, commits adultery. She's chayiv sreifa. Rav Meir's feeling the Amar Nisas. So where is she not chayiv sreifa? Nisas lechem psulim. Listen to this. She's married already. If she's married to a regular good guy, yeshiva guy from Lakewood or whatever, fine. She's married, and if she commits adultery now, she's going to get sreifa. But let's say she married somebody she's not supposed to marry, like a mamzer or something like that. Nisas lechem absulin misasa b'chenek. Then she's only going to get chenek, even though if she's married to a guy from Lakewood, then and she commits adultery, she's going to get sreifa. But if she married somebody she's not supposed to, chenek. This is what he means. If the first time she profaned herself was with bisnus, meaning she was either betrothed or she was married to a guy from Lakewood, when did she profane herself? By committing adultery. If the first time she profaned herself was with adultery, then it's besreifa. The idach bechenek. But if she profaned herself already by marrying a mamzer, then her punishment is chenek. My v'chein. So what is v'chein? What are you comparing to the case of rape? Simona ba'alma, as Rashi says, the top line of Rashi. Ubetchila shum davar akasim b'davar. The tchila schilu mi'ahave. Meaning, so what the Rebbe said was tchila. If this Bas Kohen committed adultery, it doesn't mean that she's a psula anymore. She was really married to a guy from Lakewood. When does she get sreifa? If the first time she profaned herself was via adultery, first time she profaned herself, this is the first thing that she did wrong. She profaned herself, then she's sreifa. Okay, but if she was married to a guy from Lakewood and she's married already, even though she's married already, she still gets sreifa. The first time she profaned herself was with adultery, then she gets sreifa. If she profaned herself before adultery by marrying a mamzer, she's already profaned. Then even though when she commits adultery, that's the first time there was adultery done, but then she wouldn't get straight for there. That's chenek because she already profaned herself. That's the point. She profaned herself. My v'chein siman of alma. She's profaned already. If you're profaned already, then you don't get sreifa, you get chenek like a regular married woman. Tomorrow's daf is daf Samach Zayin. It'll be on the podcast of Mirz Hashem, and on Sunday we'll start from the very top of Samach Ches. Shabbat Shalom lekulam.
Shabbat Shalom.
Today is Rosh Chodesh already, right? Chodesh Adar. Purim is right around the corner. Have a good Shabbos.